What's up, everybody? How are you? This is Jim from the Pain PT. We're going to continue our talk today about how to let your body speak via physical symptoms and feelings. And I spoke a little bit about the other day about this idea that we tend to resist or react to things we don't like in the body. And the very thing we want to do is learn how to relax into what we feel, because that gives us the best chance to heal it. So we're going to talk a little bit more in detail today about this process. So if you look to the left-hand side, you'll see a column, the first one that says resist it. So we're going to talk about this first. So when you resist what you feel in your body, it has a tendency to keep it stuck. And resistance activates the sympathetic nervous system, which is the very system we're trying to turn off with chronic pain and other chronic health ailments. This is your fight, flight, or freeze mode that gets activated through the nervous system and brain. So when you're resisting something in your body, whether it's a pain, a symptom, a feeling, this causes an increase in the emotional part of the brain, like the amygdala. And we have this saying that what we resist persists. This is always something that's good to remember, because when you're resisting something, it's going to persist. It's not going to go away. Now, resistance comes from fear. And fear is one of the biggest things we see with chronic pain, is this anxiety, worry, concern, fear around what's happening in the body. So fear leads to what's called fear avoidance. We tend to want to avoid the symptoms, avoid the pain. We want to avoid activities, hobbies, anything that might cause pain or symptoms we will have a tendency to avoid. And this originates and comes from fear, which is part of this resistance cycle. We do this because we think the symptoms or we think the pain is dangerous or threatening. We don't realize that this is just a stress response from the brain and nervous system. So when we think it's dangerous or threatening, part of this resistance pattern is to try to suppress, repress, or stop these symptoms or pains or feelings from arising or happening. So we try to push this stuff down. And it leads to burying our feelings inward. We just push them further into the body. This creates more internal pressure in us and naturally builds more symptoms and feelings. So we don't actually get out of this cycle, the chronic pain cycle or chronic symptom cycle. This keeps it stuck when we resist it. Now, we do this on the front end. When symptoms or pain starts up, we'll resist it. Now, if we don't resist it, the other way that people get caught with this is they react to it on the back end. So if you look to the far right column, this is a reaction pattern. This has a tendency to worsen your symptoms or worsen your pain. This also activates your sympathetic nervous system, that fight, flight, or freeze mode, which is the stress part of the nervous system. So this amplifies your emotional brain, which we want to try to turn off or quiet down with chronic pain and other chronic symptoms. And again, we're reacting because of the same reason. We think what's happening in us is dangerous or threatening. Otherwise, we wouldn't react at all if we thought this was benign or it was just a stress reaction in ourselves, which is what it is. So a reaction is trying to fix, control, or change what's happening in us because we don't like it, because we don't want it. Now, this reaction pattern of fixing, controlling, and changing it leads to physical, mental, and emotional reactions. So examples of some physical reactions is we tend to squirm, we tend to shift our weight, we tend to change how we hold our posture, we tend to avoid certain movements or activities. Mental reaction would be we tend to catastrophize, we tend to ruminate, we tend to think negatively for the worst about our symptoms and our pain. And then an emotional reaction can be anything from we have more fear and worry, concern, anxiety. We get frustrated, irritated, angry. We feel hopeless, depressed, sad. We can have all these reactions, physical, mental, emotional, to what we feel in our body, to uncomfortable feelings, uncomfortable sensations. Now, we react because we don't want to accept this, because we don't want to feel this, and we don't think we can feel this. It's too dangerous. Now this sets up that negative feedback loop from the body to the brain and back again. And this is called the chronic pain or chronic symptom loop of feelings and symptoms go to the brain reacts, goes back to the body, and just adds more fuel to the fire. It amplifies symptoms. And it reinforces the very things we don't want, which we're trying to get rid of. And so this just keeps this symptom cycle alive in the body when we react to it. So either resistance or reaction has a tendency to keep the symptom stuck or to make it worse. Now there's a third way we can look at this, which improves these things. This is called relaxation. This is learning to relax into what you feel in your body instead of resisting it or reacting to it. Now, when we relax into our body's sensations, symptoms, and feelings, this activates our parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest state. This is sort of the healing state in the body. This is where healing occurs. This calms down our irrational emotional brain. It settles things down. So we want to become settled while we notice what the body is giving us. So I call this body speak. We want to let our bodies speak freely. Now the body speaks in symptoms, physical sensations, emotions. All these things are called feelings because we feel them in the body. Now our body is our subconscious mind, and our subconscious mind speaks through the body. And when we practice this, we're letting the body speak freely. We don't want to try to stop it. We don't want to block it. We don't want to react to it. We don't want to resist it. We just want to listen lightheartedly, not seriously. Now this is important because when we're listening lightheartedly, we're not taking this seriously. We're not thinking it's dangerous or threatening. We're just noticing, watching, observing what's happening from a positive place, that this is actually healing when I can do this from a relaxed parasympathetic place. We can call this embracing it to erase it. I love this sort of saying, embrace it to erase it. When we can open to what we feel and embrace these feelings, they tend to go away. We can call this feel it to heal it, feeling what arises. And really what we're doing is we're overcoming the fear, our anxiety, our worry, our concern about feeling these feelings because they're uncomfortable. And they are. They can be quite strong. They can be quite powerful, sharp. They can involve emotions. So there's a lot going on in the body, but we need to understand that these feelings, these symptoms, are not dangerous or threatening. They're from a response in the brain and nervous system, most likely due to stress, a stress response. So when we come from this understanding that it's not dangerous or threatening, we can engage in starting to relax into what we feel. Now, one of the things we don't want to do is we don't want to look for or seek out these symptoms or feelings. This is called hypervigilance, when we become hyper aware of our bodies and are always looking for danger or threats or symptoms. We want to let the symptoms come from the body. It's like the body is a speaker. It's a loudspeaker sometimes. It's speaking very loudly or it's yelling. And it's popping out these messages in the form of feelings, sensations, symptoms. All we want to do is passively notice and listen to what the body is speaking. We don't want to go to the body. It's like if somebody was talking to you and you're listening to them. You're passively being receptive and absorbing what they're saying, right? You're not going to them, which is speaking back, which is a form of reaction. You're just openly aware and noticing. Okay, so we're letting it come to us. We're letting what comes come versus going towards it. And when something comes, we notice it from this relaxed space and we then let it go. Now, we may have to do the cycle over and over again because the pattern is quite strong and it's going to keep coming. But every time we can stay relaxed, we can stay open, we can just freely listen from this lighthearted, positive place that there's nothing wrong. This has a tendency to turn off the symptoms. They're being heard, being listened to, and we're calming them with this parasympathetic nervous system, which is the healing state. So ultimately, this has the ability to reduce your symptoms and feelings with practice. It's one of the best ways I find to work with what your body's giving you. And I call this again body speak. Your body's speaking to you, you want to listen to it. Now, when you listen to it, you're not listening from this place of concern or that there's something you need to do about it. I need to fix this now. I need to kind of get after it and do something about it. All you're doing is listening from a very sort of relaxed, nonchalant space, and you're just noticing it, and then you're letting it go. You're not playing into it. Okay, so there's a fine line here of people listening to their body and really listening intently and really focusing on it. And it's too much seriousness. It's too much sort of like going after it versus just letting it come and letting it go. All right, so we want to just get into this mode of relaxation, into what we feel versus resisting or reacting to what we feel. And this allows the symptoms and the feelings, the sensations to move, shift, change. And ultimately, these layers will start to peel off of you and they'll start to go and you start to feel better. So every time you do this, and when I work with people, a lot of people say, oh gosh, I feel so much better after doing this. But then you need to keep practicing this because those patterns are ingrained and they'll come back through the nervous system and neural pathways. So we need to keep changing how we work with what our bodies are giving us. All right, everybody. Hope you had some clarity from this, helped you out a little bit in understanding why we're doing this. And I'll talk to you guys later. Take care. Bye-bye.